Popcorn Poops is brought to you by Audible.com. Please visit audibletrial.com/popcornpoops for a free audiobook and free 30-day trial of their subscription service. Audible is the internet's leading provider of audiobooks with more than 150,000 downloadable titles across all types of literature, including fiction, nonfiction, and periodicals. Audible.com is offering a free audiobook download to listeners of Popcorn Poops along with a 30-day trial of their services. This week, we're recommending Masters of Doom, How Two Guys Created an Empire and Transformed Pop Culture by David Kushner, narrated by Will Wheaton. To download this or another audiobook of your choice, visit audibletrial.com/popcornpoops. Be sure to visit the correct URL so they know we sent you, and you'll be helping to support our show. Again, that's audibletrial.com/popcornpoops for your free audiobook. We are the Popcorn Poops.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Popcorn Poops, the best married couple movie podcast / commentary track hybrid audio program on the internet. My name is Jessica.
And I'm Dustin.
This month, our theme is video game adaptations, and my pick for this week's episode is Christoph Gans's 2006 film, Silent Hill. If you are syncing this recording up to the movie, go ahead and start the film, and then press pause as soon as the Davis Films vanity card completely fades to black.
It's time to start the movie. Syncers, press play at the beep after the countdown. Ready? 3, 2, 1, and we're rolling. So this is an interesting pick for our month of video game adaptations. And maybe it's possible that we blew our wad a little early. This is widely considered to be the best video game to film adaptation yet made.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily disagree with that. I still don't think it's a great movie though.
It's not. I mean, do people say it's a great movie?
Some people, yeah. I mean, internet people. Some internet people will vehemently defend this movie.
Yeah. Well, it's not a great movie.
No.
But I mean, it's the best video game adaptation movie that I think is out there.
I think I would agree with that. There's one other movie that we're going to be doing later in the month that I think might actually be a better film than this.
But it's not as closely related to...
That's true, and we don't want to give too many hints because that's going to be our last pick of the month. But as far as a video game adaptation that really captures the spirit of the game, of the source material, and is obviously kind of a labor of love and made by someone who really cared about that source material, I don't think we've gotten better than Silent Hill.
No, I don't think so either.
Christoph Gans is a French filmmaker who has made movies like Brotherhood of the Wolf. His most recent film was a Beauty and the Beast adaptation. And even years and years ago, he did a live-action adaptation of a manga series called Crying Freeman. So this guy is like a tried-and-true nerd. He makes adaptations of video games and manga, Japanese properties. Dare I say, perhaps even a weeaboo? No, maybe not that far. He's definitely an otaku.
Did I read, maybe I'm totally wrong, did I read something about him, the reason he wasn't able to do the sequel was because he was working on something to do with Onimusha?
Yeah, he was going to do an Onimusha adaptation.
Well, that was his excuse for not doing the sequel, which is
right,
a horrible movie. But
as I understand it, the Onimusha movie is pretty much dead in the water now. But yeah, he was going to get the original actor. I forget his name, but the original actor who was actually the character model for Samanosuke from the first Onimusha game to play that character in the film, because he is an actual a Japanese actor that's still working to this day, I believe. But yeah, so this movie starts, and we've got our main character, Rose Da Silva.
And get some of that imagery right off the bat with the cross.
With the cross in the background. Although the cross itself, I was going to ask about that. What is that cross exactly? Was that a church? Was that a...
But what was it like actually?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it was like one of those church signs that's...
Just a decorative cross in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
It is America.
So, that makes sense.
Right.
I think it's a good opening, though. I think it's fine. I mean, we get a lot of the reoccurring things in the movie, like the little girl is sleepwalking.
Yep.
And she almost sleepwalks off a cliff. And we later come to the cliffs in Silent Hill, so we bring back that image again where you're immediately, like, you get that feeling. You're like, oh God, what if she walked off a cliff again, or almost walked off a cliff again? They bring some of that stuff back up, and however, unfortunately, we get right off at the beginning the realization that our little girl actress is not so great.
No, not
unfortunately,
not super good. And they
what's her name? Jadelle Ferland. I don't know how to say it.
Jadelle Ferland, maybe.
Jadelle Ferland.
Sure, I don't know her from. I don't think I know her from anything else.
I looked up some stuff because I was curious if she had been in anything else. She's actually been in a few things, stuff that I know. Like she's been in the Twilight movies. She played a small role in those.
Oh, good.
Did you ever see Case 39?
No.
It was a horror movie.
No, I don't think so.
Well, she plays an evil child in that movie.
Oh.
Surprise. She was in an episode of Supernatural. Did you ever see The Messengers?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, she was one of the kids in that movie.
Okay, so she's kind of carved out a niche for herself
like,
in
horror movies and stuff.
as like the creepy
now,
little girl.
Here's some cool stuff. This is going to make you... I mean, it won't, like, change your opinion. Well, okay, well, also she was in R.L. Stein's The Haunting Hour, that TV show. It won't make you change your opinion of her because she's still a bad actress, or at least, a child actress.
Yeah.
But it's hard to judge kids, right? Like, I think it's kind of unfair. But, it's not unfair, but it feels mean. So,
Yeah.
but anyway, she doesn't do a great job. However, some cool stuff that she did, in BioShock 2, she was the voice of Little Sister.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
And also in The Cabin in the Woods.
She was
She was the zombie girl.
Yeah, the zombie daughter of the
hillbilly
zombie
zombie daughter, Patience Buckner.
That's really interesting. I guess she has kind of carved that niche out of the creepy little ring girl. I guess since DeVay Chase from the American remake of The Ring. I maybe didn't want to be typecast. Somebody had to be, because that became a total thing in the United States after The Ring came over. And I guess Miss Ferland, or is that her name? Ferland?
Ferland.
Was more than happy to take up that mantle.
And she's fine. We got to have those creepy little girls. Unfortunately, she's not quite creepy enough.
Yeah, she's not
in this.
Yeah, she's not the greatest actress.
A cool little blurb before we get too far away. There was some graffiti on the tunnel.
Oh yeah, in the very first scene when she's chasing after Sharon, the little girl's character's name is Sharon in the movie.
And we see the graffiti on the wall says Cheryl.
Yeah.
Which is the name of the character that Sharon is based off of from the games.
That is right. Full disclosure, I have not actually played a whole bunch of the first Silent Hill game. The most of a Silent Hill game I've played is probably Silent Hill 2. This movie actually borrows a lot from Silent Hills 1 through 4, I think. Is that right?
I've read different stuff. I'm sure if I had played more of the Silent Hill games that I'd be able to tell you more about exactly where things come from. From my experience with the games, I know a lot of the backstory all comes from Origins, from the PSP game. I've played that one almost all the way through. And from the first game, a lot of stuff comes from the first game, and then there are things from the second, third, and fourth game, as I understand.
They've changed names a little bit. They've changed some story elements, but more or less, they've changed locations and things.
Like, this movie has a lot to do with the mine fire, and I don't remember anything about any mine fire.
I don't think there's
the
underground coal fire thing.
Yeah. I mean, there's fire stuff in the games, like they burn Alessa, but...
I don't think that's actually in the games. That actually, as I understand it, it came from there are actually multiple scriptwriters on this, although Roger Avery, who is actually a quite well-known scriptwriter who has written and directed movies like The Rules of Attraction. He also was a scriptwriter on Pulp Fiction, I believe. He was the story credit, I believe, on Pulp Fiction. He got the inspiration for the long-burning underground coal fire from a real place, as I understand it.
Real Silent Hill is what the internet likes to call it.
And it's, where is that? It's in Pennsylvania, I think, right?
West Virginia. Oh, wait, sorry, Pennsylvania. Yeah, in the movie, it's Silent Hill, West Virginia. In the games, it's Silent Hill, Maine.
Maine, right.
And the place that the movie Silent Hill is based off of is Centralia?
Good enough.
In Columbia County, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Which was built on top of a 95% pure coal mine
deposit or something. Yeah.
And we'll go into the history of that later. Let's catch up where we are in the movie.
Sure.
We're at the gas station right now, where the mom is stopped. The characters we've got so far, we've got the dad, the mom, and Sharon.
The child, right. The father is Christopher, the mom is Rose, the child is Sharon.
And their names are De Silva.
De Silva.
In the games, these are the Masons.
Yeah, that's right.
Harry Mason and
Harry in the first game, as I understand it, Harry Mason, which is, I guess, what Sean Bean's character is supposed to
that's
be.
who he's supposed
He's
to be.
actually the main character. He's who you play in the first game.
In the first game?
I think so, yeah.
In the first game. Because he's looking for his daughter. He's looking
Right.
for I'm mixing them up. He's looking for Cheryl.
Right. I always mix them up in this too.
I'm
I
going
mix
to
them
mix
up
them
in the
up
movie.
while I'm talking about them. It's Sharon
is
in the
such-
movie, Cheryl in the game.
Right, exactly. But Sharon seems so much more like an adult name to me that I keep wanting to call Rose Sharon.
Yeah.
Like when I was writing my notes and everything, I kept messing that
So
up.
sorry in advance if that gets mixed up.
It's going to get confusing.
Yeah, but anyway, so in this movie we've taken a lot of liberties, which is fine. It's an adaptation, and I'm totally. Of course, things have to be changed. I don't want to watch the exact same story that I already know.
Right. It's not called a carbon copy. It's an adaptation.
Right. So
You
that's
have to
totally
adapt,
fine.
sure.
And I think it's cool that we've got little Easter eggs throughout the movie that are references to the source material. In the game, though, in the first Silent Hill, you play Harry Mason, which would be in this movie Christopher De Silva.
Mm-hmm.
And what's crazy? Oh, before we get away, this shot is my favorite shot in the movie.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Beautiful.
It's beautiful.
Where we've got the long shot over the car as it's going through the trees, and you've got like moonlight over everything. Oh, it's so beautiful. This movie is beautiful.
Yes, it is. It is absolutely beautiful, and I think a lot of that that credit belongs to the cinematographer Dan Laustsen. I believe his name is Dan Laustsen, who has worked with Christoph Gans before on the film I mentioned before, Brotherhood of the Wolf. He also shot the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen and some other stuff like Solomon Kane and some other things. But yeah, he does a great job, not only with like the scenes that are really dark and how they're lit, but like the brighter scenes. Everything has this kind of sheen of surreality to it.
It does. It's dreamlike, which is, of course, a major.
Even the real world
throughout the
scenes
movie.
feel really dreamlike. It's not just inside
It's true.
Silent Hill, the town, or inside the other world within Silent Hill, that kind of the hellscape.
Because this is the real world right now. But when we have these long shots away from the car, looking down, it doesn't look real. It looks like a fantasy world.
Yeah.
That winding road. This moment right here, where the mom drives away from the cop, I guess this would be the sin.
Sure.
In your horror movie.
If we're using Cabin in the Woods
Right,
rules,
if you want to,
sure.
which I think are great rules, so I'm okay with them. This is the sin right here. This is the moment where she's just been a little curious, just trying to help her daughter till now, but now she's gonna really break the rules and drive through the closed-off bridge. Here's another long shot right here that I can't get away from them. They're haunting.
They're
slow
hauntingly pulls
beautiful.
out, but then it's like intercut between these kind of kinetic, hectic action type scenes of her driving inside the car with the camera shaking around, and then you've got these smooth pulled out shots with all you can really see is like the shape of the hills and the headlights in the distance. It's really, the juxtaposition is really, really nice.
It is. It's really, really great. And of course, we get our first moment where we're like, oh yeah, this is a Silent Hill movie, when we've got some radio interference and stuff going on as they pass into the town. And
Of course, in the games, for those of you who don't know, in the games, when something evil is nearby,
right.
when
creature or something awful that you don't want to
when
see,
something wicked this way comes,
something terrible is about to happen.
Your radio or your cell phone or whatever kind of communication device you have on you will start spit
going
static and
static.
Yeah.
Oh God, it makes the
super-
sound of
yeah.
static for the rest of your life. It's just like anytime I hear just pure static on something, it's so unnerving because you're just thrown right back into the game where that
It's super
means
effective.
there's something around you that you're gonna hate.
Okay, now she has crashed her car, although we can't really see into what she's crashed it. It just looks like she's kind of stopped
Well,
in the
she
middle
kind
of
of
the road.
spun it out. It looked like she just spun it out and hit her head on the steering wheel.
And she
So-
comes to, and Sharon's gone, and Rose gets out of the car, and it appears to be snowing. We find out soon that it's actually ashes are falling all around her. Now, the end of this movie, I'm going to jump way, way ahead. The end of this movie and kind of the segments in between where Sean Bean's character Christopher is searching Silent Hill for Rose and Sharon are shot in such a way that it's obvious that they are no longer in the same universe with one another.
Right.
And I'm wondering if that is meant to be I'm wondering if actually it's meant to be that Rose and Sharon have actually gotten in a car wreck here and they're dead.
Well, and of course, that's going to be like a major theory that's out there about this movie. It's also...
And then the police officer also has a wreck because she's bleeding from her head
Right.
when she comes up and finds Rose later on.
And that's the moment, too, where... Well, like I said, dreams and sleep and not knowing if you're awake or dreaming, it is definitely a continued theme throughout this movie and throughout all the Silent Hill games too. It's not just in the movies, it's in the games too, where you don't know what's real and what's not real. Which part of Silent Hill is real? Because in the world she's in right now, in this Silent Hill world, the place she is with the ash falling down still has terrible, horrible creatures that can kill her and will try to. And when it changes to the other world, but I don't know if they ever call it anything in the movie. In the games, it's usually called the other world.
The other world, yeah.
When it changes to the other world, that like dark, creepy, burning place where everything peels off the walls and is blood covered and horrible, it also has horrible creatures and stuff. But none of this is real. None of it feels real. It all feels like a dream. And in the games, that
Behind her right now is a store called Empty Rooms. MT Rooms, referring
clever.
to not just Silent Hill, but all kind of survival horror type games where
you have empty rooms.
lots and lots of empty rooms just intended to build suspense in the game where you walk in and you don't know what's in there. And a lot of times
There's nothing.
It's nothing, but yeah. So that's a funny little
Some of
punny
these
nod.
shots right here of her going down the street, like, I think we just passed it a second ago, but some of the weird angles and stuff. This one too. It's just lifted straight out of the game.
Yep.
Just straight out of, and when I say the game, I mean the game series as a whole. Sometimes the most difficult thing in a Silent Hill game is your perspective, like suddenly being tossed from one perspective into another one when you're walking down an alley or something, and it changes which way the camera angle is, and you get disoriented about which way you're swinging at the monsters that are coming at you. And this movie kind of captures that anxiety through the same sort of shots where you've got these really weird angles all of a sudden when she's walking down the street or down a hall or...
Yeah, those elements, not only just like the visuals of the movie, but the audio of the movie itself, the soundtrack in particular, is lifted almost, not exactly, but
Oh, there's
almost,
only one song in the whole movie.
There's only one song. Oh, I didn't realize
Only
that.
one song.
I didn't realize there was only one song in the whole movie.
That's not from the video games?
I'm sorry. I thought you were saying there's only one song, period. In the
No.
whole movie.
No. That you're going to say that
Yes.
the soundtrack for the movie is from the game.
It's lifted almost directly from the video games. The music, of course, was originally composed by Akira Yamaoka, who is an amazing composer, and the soundtrack for the original games,
the original four games.
the
Is
original
what we're talking
four
about.
games, of course, are amazing soundtracks and are very, very, very good.
How many? There are a lot more than four games now, like
Oh, yeah.
7 or something. I don't
less
know
than 10, yeah, but
how many there
more
are
than the
now, but
original
we're
four.
talking about the original 4 games.
Apparently, according to the contract they had, or some kind of licensing agreement, I'm not sure what the legalese actually says there, but they had to have a Canadian composer come on to work on it contractually, like he had to. So they had a guy named Jeff Dana come in to basically remix Yamaoka's stuff, and I think he does a pretty good job with that. But I do have to say that I think that the soundtrack in this movie, the score, is excellent by itself. I really, really like it, and I think it only works sometimes in the
movie.
context of the movie. Right.
In the games, it works all the time.
I think so.
In the games, there's never been a moment in the games when I'm like, well, this music's out of place. I mean, it's perfect in the games. In the movie, sometimes it's a little too static, I guess.
Yeah, it's jarring.
I don't know quite how to put my finger on it. It's kind of, there are just scenes where it feels like it's video game music.
Yeah. Where you can tell you're like, wait a second.
Wait a minute. This sounds like video game music. This sounds like filler music in the background.
What is this she's looking at here?
I don't know. It looks like a bloody tarp or something.
Okay.
Just something upsetting. She's finding things that are blood stained.
I guess it's the
Her
blood that she's reacting to.
is really strong there.
It is. It's a really strong reaction, which made me wonder what
like she
exactly,
found a body or something and
But I mean, we're only like 20 minutes into the movie. We're like less than 20 minutes into the movie at this point, and
this movie picks up.
Yeah, we are already in. Not only is she already in Silent Hill, we're already in the other world, and she is now seeing a crucified body that has been disemboweled on a
and strung up with barbed wire
on a fence. Yeah, and strung
and
up with
he's
barbed
still
wire.
alive.
And he's still alive, and then she's going to turn around and she's going to see what is referred to in the games as the gray child. Yeah, gray children, which are kind of bald and burned, screaming.
They scream
childlike
like children.
Things. They scream like children. Interestingly, the gray children do appear in the original game, but only in the United States.
Yeah, I didn't know that until I was doing research for this, that these, because I looked them up because I couldn't remember what they were called, and I saw that in the first Silent Hill, they in Japan, where the games are from,
Yeah,
they
were censored.
didn't even have, they were turned into what, mumblers or
yeah, they were turned into a creature
called
called mumblers that are kind of these big hulking creatures
Are those
with
the
like
ones
holes
that have
in their
like
necks.
are they the ones without arms that like?
No, they have arms. They have like, I think the arms are like the sharp blades, and they've got a hole.
Oh, okay, yeah,
They've got like a hole where their head should be.
So they took out the gray children because I guess they were too upsetting in Europe and Japan.
Yeah, because it was the image of like burned children that are screaming as little monsters.
And the creator, what's his name, Keiichiro,
Yokota, maybe.
But anyways, though, he, as I understand,
Toyama. I'm sorry, Keiichiro Toyama. That is
Toyama.
The original creator of Silent Hill.
He wanted them in the game, but
well, of course he did.
But
I'm sure he did.
Even in his home country, they pulled them out, and I guess he was pretty upset about it.
Right Now is the only song in the entire movie that is not from the original video game, and I believe this is Ring of Fire by Johnny Cash.
Yeah, and it's playing on an
old jukebox.
So we get away with that, right?
Yeah, incidental music.
Yeah. So
sure.
Now, cool thing about the gray children in the movie, they're played by a dancer named Yvonne.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a Vietnamese name.
You pronounce her name?
Yeah, Yvonne.
Yvonne.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think she did a great job with them. They get a lot of dancers for this movie.
Yeah, most of the creatures are actually played by dancers. I believe even Pyramid Head is played by a dancer.
I know he's the same guy who plays the janitor in the movie, Colin.
Yes, that's right. He is a dancer then.
Robertson. I'll find it in my notes later.
Yeah, I'm not. It is. I think that's right. Robertson something. But yeah, and even the nurses, the dark, they call them dark nurses.
That's one of my favorite parts of the whole movie.
I think that's probably my favorite scene in the movie. Toward the end, the dark nurses are really, really legitimately scary.
Really awful. They are just terrible.
Now, we'll get into this a little bit, but probably more than a little bit. But I think that where this movie really falls down and kind of fails is when you try to examine anything at all that the movie even explores, like ideologically or thematically or emotionally.
That's not when you get below the surface of any of it.
There's nothing there.
Yeah.
And I think that's a real shame, because the movie on its face seems to be a very serious take on the ideas that it's trying to explore, or the way that it brings them up. You expect that there to be some earnesty to what it's exploring or what it's trying to say.
And these topics we're discussing are what, like motherhood?
Motherhood is one.
Vengeance.
Revenge is one. Occultism or fanaticism or blind faith. Blind faith. That kind of stuff. It's all surface level, and a lot of it's really contradictory, and none of it really makes a lot of sense. This movie doesn't even seem to have a moral to it. Like, there's no morality to this whatsoever. It's like, if there's a morality to it, it's that a mother will do literally anything for her child.
We do keep the mothers as positive figures in this movie.
Yeah.
The mothers stay positive figures. Right now, this is a great time to talk about it because we're meeting Dahlia.
Dahlia, right.
Who is the mother of Alessa. Now, in Silent Hill lore, from the games and then some from the movie too, Alessa is Dahlia's daughter. Alessa had supernatural abilities. She was like telekinetic,
psychic or something,
and stuff. Like, she could kill people with her mind.
Yeah.
And they all called her a witch, and because they live in this very small, religiously fanatic town, people got crazy. And this town in Silent Hill history is plagued by plagues and by an occultist fanatic order, called the Order, a group of people, doomsday occultists.
Oh, okay.
And in the storyline of the games, Dahlia, Alessa's mom, wants to bring their god back into the world.
Yeah, that sounds right. I remember something about that.
And so she comes to realize that the way she can succeed at doing this is by using her daughter, Alessa, to bring the god into the world. And if you've ever played Origins, the PSP game, that's where a lot of this backstory is really given. And in that story, you play a guy who interferes with the ritual that Dahlia is doing on her daughter. And however, it doesn't really work, and Alessa is still impregnated by this god and possessed, and they keep her alive down in the basement in Silent Hill, which is where the Alessa in this movie, where we see her.
In the basement of the hospital.
In the basement. In the games, I don't think it's in the hospital. Maybe it is. I don't remember.
I'm not sure. I can't remember.
But she's kept alive down there, and she fractures her soul and puts her good part into this infant child, which appears on the side of the road, and that's where Harry Mason.
That's Cheryl, or
that's Cheryl.
Okay.
So Sharon from this movie, the little girl in this movie, is the good half of Alessa, right, who is the other little girl we see running around in this movie. We see two little girls. One who is the mom main character's daughter, Sharon. And then we see another little girl who looks similar but more evil. Well, and that's like the demon side of Alessa.
Okay. I think that in actuality in the movie, Alessa is still alive. She's in the basement of the hospital, she's older, and she's scarred and all this kind of stuff, and it's her hate, and basically she has made a deal with the devil, who has taken the image of her childhood self, and they don't really explain how it happened in the movie, but she gets impregnated somehow, and she has a child that ends up being Sharon, and the reason Sharon looks like she did when she was a kid is because, they're, mother and child. So the demon version of Sharon that's not really Alessa is, as I understand it, just the demon that has taken on her form.
The little girl that's running around.
Running around, here. Right. And Alessa's somewhere else. At some point she gets picked up by Dahlia because she's found in an apartment toward the end of the movie with Dahlia, and Dahlia's like trying to protect her. At what point she was picked up, I'm not sure. Maybe at the very beginning, like maybe Dahlia took her out of the car.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe, I'm not sure.
But I guess all of it gets kind of convoluted, especially when you're trying to talk about the movie and the game at the same time, because they're not that different, but they're just different enough that it causes problems when you're trying to talk about both of them, which we are. But My point that I'm actually trying to make is that in the games, the mom is not a good person.
Oh, really?
Dahlia is using her daughter, sacrificing. She tries to burn her daughter alive to impregnate her and do this ritual with this god thing. And then she keeps her daughter alive for like 7 years or something in torture. She's torturing her and putting her through excruciating pain so that Cheryl will be drawn back to Silent Hill because she feels like the inner pain of the other half of her soul being tortured.
Right.
And so she's a horrible person. The Dahlia in the movie here is not. She's just a mom who was maybe confused by the occult that she had grown up in.
Right. Well, they don't really reverse that and turn Sean Bean's character Christopher into a terrible person. In fact, he's not really much of anything. As I understand it, when the script was turned in to the producers, the producers were kind of shocked because there were no men in the movie. It was a movie full of women, from Rose to Sybil, the police officer, to Dahlia, to Christabella. All of these characters in the movie, it was all women, which is not a problem, but to the producers, it was a problem. They felt like it needed to have some men. So there was a rewrite done where they introduced this storyline with Sean Bean's character and the detective here, what's his name? Thomas Gucci. And you'll come to realize, if you're paying attention to the movie, you'll come to realize that nothing they do in the movie matters.
Not at all.
Not one thing.
Like, his storyline kind of parallels the things that they're doing in Silent Hill. He finds out the information at the same time she finds out the information.
But we don't learn anything from
matter.
them. Exactly. We don't learn anything from them that we don't learn a different way, that we don't know already.
And that it doesn't do anything. A different way. Everything he does, like, what does he do in the end? In the end, nothing. And he goes home.
In the end, he just goes home and stays there. Like, he doesn't. He learns as much, I guess he learns just about as much as Rose does, experiencing all these terrible things in Silent Hill, but he just goes home because at some point he digs a little bit too deep and Gucci's like, all right, you got to get out of here.
And he does.
And that's it. And he goes home. He is absolutely worthless as a character. He does nothing.
And that's surprising because, again, in the first Silent Hill, you play in the movie Christopher DeSalva. In the game, his name is Harry Mason, and you play him. Mm-hmm. And that's your point of view right there, is that character which in the movie has nothing to do. Which is fine if he was in the movie for another reason. Like, otherwise, why do we have him in the movie?
If he affected the story at all,
then that would be fine for him to be there and it just be a different story. That's fine. I mean, we've got the mom looking for the daughter instead of the dad looking for the daughter. That's fine. But then why do we need the dad? We didn't need the mom in the movie or in the game. Was the mom in the game? I think maybe there were some flashbacks and stuff. Maybe like some memories he has where he's thinking of his wife.
We're about to get another really cool creature effect. Another, actually, as far as I understand, aside from the bugs, all of the creatures in the movie are practically made. They're all practical effects with CG enhancements. Now, the CG looks a little bit dated. Not all of it looks great, but the stuff that really should come across as effective doesn't look dated because all of the stuff that actually matters is practical. Like this effect right here is mostly a practical effect, this armless man creature, and it's really effective.
Yeah, it's awful. It's just terrible.
Most of the stuff in this movie is just really, really terrible.
It is.
Not terrible as in like, oh God, it's so bad, but...
What does he spray at her? What is it, like sulfuric acid or something?
Some kind of corrosive substance. And now that she's got her helmet off, you can actually see Laurie Holden's face. And those of you who watch The Walking Dead should recognize her as, what was her character's name? Audrey or something like that? Andrea. Yeah. She's also wearing the most flattering police uniform of all time.
Yeah, for real. Police uniforms are not made for women.
No.
And when they are, well, I'm saying that, of course, there are police uniforms made for women.
Sure.
I'm not an idiot. But I've worn real police uniforms before, made for women, and they're just awful. And you just feel frumpy as fuck. So they're horrible. I mean, but button-up shirts are horrible for women. Let's be real. So the cop, some of the other stuff she's been in, again, I was looking on IMDb trying to find some stuff that I knew her from because I knew her face. She was in Fantastic Four.
What? What was she in Fantastic Four?
Debbie.
I don't know. Oh, the Thing's girlfriend? Oh, no, but that was someone else, I think.
I don't know. I saw that movie a very, very long time ago and tried to forget it promptly.
Immediately walked out of the theater like, I got to get this out of my brain.
Yeah. She was in The Mist.
Oh, okay.
She played Amanda in The Mist, Amanda Dunphy. And then, of course, The Walking Dead is what she's known for now. And then I got real psyched because what I probably remembered her from besides Walking Dead is she was on X-Files. She's been on
really?
X-Files for a long time, since back in season 4 all the way through 9. She was a informant for Mulder for a while, and then we found out. Did you ever meet Krychek? Have you ever watched enough X-Files? Right, so Krychek's like bad most of the time. He's always working for like Cigarette Smoking Man or some shit, and she was romantically involved with him. We learned later, but I know she comes up later in the show.
There are lots of like Bible verses scattered throughout this film, written on on things. Actually, earlier in the movie, there was one on a billboard that said, "What did it say?" It was from Corinthians.
Do you not know that we will judge angels? Do you not know that the saints will judge the world?
And that's from Corinthians 6, verse 2 and 3.
Mm-hmm.
And then we just saw another one that was from Psalms, and it said, "Evil will slay the wicked; the foes of the righteous will be condemned." And that's from Psalms 34:21, and that's the New International Version.
So this is I know you were giving this kind of thing some shit in this movie, but I love these little tidbits here. She goes into the school and she's rustling around in the office and starts pulling on drawers, and it's locked. And then she's looking around some more and found a key, and then opens the drawer and item acquired, flashlight.
Yeah. There's the way she follows clues in this. She of course she's right to follow the clues the way she does, but she follows them not unlike a crazy person might, where she just, anything she sees or anything she finds, doesn't matter how many, there are no false flags. There are, anything that she puts her hand on and picks up is the next place that she has to go. She went back to the car, tried to start the car, and she couldn't. She found one of the demented drawings, the darker drawings, darker versions of the drawings that her daughter Sharon was doing, and it said school on it. So she's like, I've got to go to fucking school. And now she's at the school and she's going to see
I really loved how as she was going through the town, she kept stopping and looking at the map, the street maps.
Yeah.
Those maps there are maps just like that in the game.
Mm.
And the locations on the map, I'm pretty sure all of them, I looked up a few of them, and all the ones I looked up were straight out of the game. So like Neely Street it's Neely Avenue in the movie, but it's Neely Street in the game. But the school name, Midwich School.
Yeah.
And a bunch of other places from the maps, they're right out of the game. And I know you think it's kind of cheesy, but I think it's fun when they take those direct elements where it's like, got to pull up my map and find out where I'm going next. I mean, it's fun. Looking for the key for the locked drawer.
I guess so, but it's just there are no false starts. There are no false flags.
The clue stuff that you're talking about later, after this, I agree with you on.
But let's talk about the flashlight, because you're trying to defend the flashlight thing, and to me,
I think the flashlight thing is cute.
Okay, it's cute and it's fun and it's decidedly video gamey, which is kind of where my problem is, because she doesn't look for anything else ever, and just in that one scene, she decided to look around through papers and find the key so she could open a door and get a flashlight, and then that's it. Like she did.
All the other drawers were locked.
She is.
There was nothing inside. It was an empty room.
She is currently in handcuffs. And she picks up a set of keys, and she doesn't think hey, maybe these keys might work on my handcuffs. No, she immediately goes for a drawer and immediately finds a flashlight, which she uses. I mean, it is the epitome of this kind of straightforward video game logic where it's like you go for the shiny thing. You go for the thing that stands out because that's exactly where you need to go. That's how video games work. And I think that if someone didn't know that this was based on a video game, it wouldn't be hard to figure that out based on how these characters
based
act.
on the video game.
I
can believe that.
We just passed, if I can find it in my notes, we just passed the shot that was our hint for the week for this episode, and Taylor Nelson on Facebook got it, and she would like to plug Two Player Media, which we've mentioned on the show before, and she's actually got an upcoming YouTube show starting called Tink and Taylor, and that hasn't started yet, but that is forthcoming, so look forward to that.
Check it out.
So we've got Rose running around the school.
By the way,
Still in handcuffs.
who in the hell wears their cell phone around their neck like a necklace? Like
Dorks.
I don't want to forget it. I'm gonna put it around my neck.
People who are in a Silent Hill game, because it's got to be easily accessible for when the static happens. Although static,
Who's having this flashback also? Does she have the flashback right there?
I think the Notebook has the flashback.
Like, I wondered that when I was watching it for notes this time. I was like, what? Wait a minute. No one else is in the room with her?
Yeah, she finds a notebook in the desk, and then somebody
has a flashback of Alessa being bullied. And it's like, well, she doesn't have that information.
There's a digital zoom coming up here that's really awful. When Alessa goes through the door, that one, that's rough.
You have talked before about the fact that this movie does a weird thing with video and film.
It does. This was shot on what is it? It was shot on Super 35, I think, but it was also shot on HD video. Although in the credits it says that it's shot on Panavision, which is film, and it's not actually what it was shot on. That's kind of strange. But it was shot on two formats. It was shot on film and on HD video. And sometimes, like this stuff right here is pretty obviously film. And I'm pretty sure that all of the Otherworld stuff is shot on video to give it kind of that.
Well, that would make sense. If they were jumping back and forth like that.
I believe maybe the flashbacks are also shot on the video to give it kind of an otherworldly or a different kind of texture even to the way the movie looks. But then there are some things that take place in the real world that are kind of obviously shot on video. The most egregious of which, I think, is the shot where Sybil, the police officer, and Rose go into the church for the first time when they are accused of being witches and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. There's this really weird kind of trucking shot that pulls like right up to them. That's really video-y, for lack of a better word.
This is my favorite moment in the movie that's like a direct reference to the games. Because this is my least favorite part of all the games. And by least favorite, of course, I mean like it's the best stuff in the games, but it's always what makes me stop playing the games because I've never beat a Silent Hill game. I've started a bunch of them. My little brother loves them, and he got me onto them years ago. And I've started a bunch of them, and I've put some time into a few of them, like Origins, but I can never beat them because I get too scared. and that
sounds like the games are doing their job.
Well, they are. They do a great job, and I try and play them faithfully with headphones in or in a dark room, and because I love horror movies, and so horror games, because I love games, it seems like it should be the perfect genre for me, but I have such a hard time playing really scary ones. Sometimes it's different when I'm having to control it. And this is exactly the kind of thing that I have a problem with in the games.
So she's found this man who is a janitor.
And he's barbed wire tangled.
His corpse is like twisted and tangled and tied up in one of the bathroom stalls with barbed wire.
And behind the stall on the wall, it says, dare you, double dare. And what she obviously, his head is like bent backwards, and obviously she has to reach into his mouth for something. That's what the wall is taunting her to do.
And you can just see the prompt on the screen, like in your head.
Yeah.
Do you want to reach into his mouth?
Well, it's always like reach in, yes or no. And like anytime I hit that point in the game, one of the ones I always think of, I don't remember if it's from 1 or 2, but it's really early at the beginning of the game.
I think it's from, I know what you're talking about. It's from 2.
You're in a hotel,
yeah.
and you go into the hotel room, and it's just this massacre all over the room. And there's this horrible bloody wall with like a hole in the wall, and just organs and terrible things coming out of this hole. And the game prompts you, like, reach inside. And I'm like, fuck no. What the
Your
hell
gut instinct is,
what are you talking about? Why?
Pass.
Why in the hell would I put my arm in that hole? And that's exactly that moment that we just came to here in the movie where it's like reach inside dead corpse's mouth that's been barbed wired to this bathroom toilet and desecrated. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to reach my hand in his he's going to jump up and bite me or some shit. And he doesn't, and you get your item, and you move on with the game, but movie.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that there is, with all of the crazy stuff that happens in this movie, there is a lot of restraint exhibited, I think. And I think that Gans as a filmmaker and the writers actually managed to, keep themselves from doing the horror movie thing too much. Because I think in another horror movie, she reaches into his mouth and you get the jump scare.
Yeah.
Right?
True.
This movie doesn't have jump scares in it.
I can't really think of any.
There are none. This movie relies 100% on atmosphere. Yeah. Using music, using visuals, and gore. There's gore in the movie.
Yeah.
It is all psychological. It is all emotional. It is all atmospheric. And that is, at the end of the day, it's a poorly written movie that has nothing to say about any of the things that it pretends to say things about, which makes it, I think, at the end of the day, makes it kind of a bad movie. But as a horror movie that isn't interested in scaring you cheaply,
I think it does a great job.
And is legitimately creepy and legitimately creative.
Like this scene right here
with the Colin character.
Now that we're in the other world, the
barbed wire
corpse from the
guy.
toilet has come to life and is crawling across the floor on his stomach. And every time he touches the wall, these like veins spread out from the wall, and these big pustule things come out from the veins. And when they burst, they've got these horrible cockroachy
like this shot
bugs
right here,
that pour out of
the
him.
shot
and
right
eat
here
people.
with him just offset to the left, and all of this just horrible, gruesome chaos around him.
Yeah, it's so gross and it's so creative. And it's just awesome. I mean, it really is awesome.
There is a lot to praise this movie for, I think.
I mean, this stuff here with all these roach bug things that were coming out of the pustules eating the miners.
This is the thing that makes her scream, though?
Yeah, for real. She's been screaming a while ago.
She's just ran away from a terrible, like, zombie monster that crawls across the ground because his legs are barbed wired to his head. And she's seen these little demon children, and then she sees cockroaches eating like these miner guys, and that's what makes her scream.
I don't know, but maybe that's a moment where she's like, I'm going to die right now because these bugs are going to eat me alive.
Okay, these guys are dying, so that means I'm going to die.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, that might be it.
So, and then we see briefly Alessa here. It's very Ring right here.
It is, but I mean, you got to understand that this was a thing in Japan, like the idea of the creepy little girl with
and
the black hair
goes
in her
into
face.
a whole long thing, the Sadako thing.
Oh yeah,
and
that's
all
that's a whole cultural thing.
That's a whole podcast on its own right there.
Yeah,
but
exactly. But I mean, yes, this is adapted from a Japanese property that is in a culture where one of the big tropes in horror movies is the creepy little girl with black hair in her face. That kind of ghost girl thing. And it's, it works sometimes and doesn't work other times. I don't know. I think it's
done now. I think it's done.
Oh, it's done here.
I'm
sorry. It's done in the United States. We're in Japan.
I mean, when I say it's done, I mean it's not effective anymore.
It's run its course.
I think it's over. At least for me, I'm tired of it, and I'm somebody who.
The success of it also depends on the skills of the actress who's having to pull it off.
Yeah, of course, very true.
The girl in this movie just doesn't.
I guess
cut it.
for me, like I was really into J-horror for I don't know, about something like 7 years or something.
Hold that thought. I wanted to say something about the fact that Christopher and Gucci are searching in Silent Hill that is obviously not the same Silent Hill that Rose is in. And they never say it. The movie never says it. They don't have to say it. And I don't care for Sean Bean's storyline. I don't think it does anything.
But you like that?
I think at the end of the day, it only serves to create an ambiguous ending that doesn't mean anything, that has no purpose whatsoever. But I do like how this is a story that is told visually. From top to bottom, it's really a visually told story. And I think that's...
We see him walking down the hall by these lockers calling for her, and then we see her by the lockers, and they don't have to say anything. They don't have to tell us.
Speaking of Sean Bean, let's talk about the performances a little bit. Sean Bean's American accent is a whole lot of how should I say, good try. It's every time something comes out of his mouth, I just want to say, oh. Good try, buddy. Good. Maybe next time. Maybe next time you won't sound totally.
Well, I mean,
not
our main character, Radha Mitchell.
Radha Mitchell. Yeah.
Rosa De Silva, the mom in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
She's Australian, right?
She's Australian. She does a mostly good job.
Yeah.
Mostly.
There are a couple moments.
Sure. American accent's tough.
It is.
It's tough. But yeah, Sean Bean just. Poor guy. I also think this might be his worst performance that I've ever seen. There are these little moments that don't make a whole lot of sense. I don't know if it's like just him not having enough direction or what the case is, but one thing that just comes right off the top of my head is when he first meets Thomas Gucci, the detective on the bridge. Before he meets him, he's talking to this other police officer. He gets out of his car and he's like, "I'm looking for my wife," and he keeps like looking behind him, like someone's gonna sneak up on him or something. And it's like, do you just not have enough to do in the scene, man? Like you gotta keep moving, gotta keep looking over your shoulder, like someone's gonna sneak up behind you with a knife or something. It's a really strange like performance choice where he's like, I'm looking for my wife. She's right around here somewhere, I guess.
Maybe he just didn't care.
I guess he's in the sequel too, as I understand it.
Yeah, he is. Have you seen the sequel?
I have not.
You have not seen the sequel. Oh,
that means it's a bit of a Game of Thrones reunion of sorts.
Yeah, it is. We've got Jon Snow and we've got
Kit
dear old
Harington
Ned
and Sean Bean.
Yeah, we do.
Did you think about that before?
Yeah, I thought of it that's why. Well, I watched the movie for Jon Snow, to be completely honest,
oh, okay.
but and also because it was the sequel to Silent Hill, and I love this movie. Love.
Do you love this movie?
Love. Love is a strong word. I really like this movie a lot. I think as a horror movie, I think it does its job. It scares me. It's creepy.
I think if there was a way for me to watch this movie with its visuals and its music and none of the performances, I think I could say I like this movie. But the performances.
Are you going to say you don't even like this movie?
I don't know that I like this movie.
That's surprising.
It's
not thinking it's great.
It's close.
But
like
I
it's
think
close.
it's good.
I don't know. It's
fun.
It's enjoyable
fun,
on some level.
It's beautiful.
I mean,
it's a beautifully shot movie.
Speaking of the performances, again, I don't think this is unfair to say that the movie is, I think, pretty obviously directed by a non-native English speaker.
Yeah, we were talking about this earlier.
I don't think that's unfair to say. A lot of the line deliveries are very, very strange.
They
are.
What's your favorite one?
Strangely wooden.
Calm right down now, or
yeah, there's one that they say twice. Actually, Laurie Holden's character, Sybil, the police officer, when she's arresting Rose by her car earlier, she says, calm right down. I think
Calm right
down. And that just struck me as not particularly naturalistic. As a turn of phrase.
Yeah.
Calm right down. And then it becomes even stranger when I believe it's right after this scene. Rose says it to Sybil.
Which is,
She says the exact same thing. She says, we have to calm right down.
And clearly it's like a turnaround showing how she's a stronger character now. She's been in this world longer. She's got it together more. She's eventually going to make harder decisions and do scarier things by herself. It's fine, I think, for characterization, but as for dialogue, it is really awkward.
I don't know. Like, I guess emotionally or idealistically, I would agree with that.
I think it's right here where the line's going to come up.
It's right here. But I think it's actually just something that she says it right here. All right, I know this is crazy. I know.
We got to calm right down.
Calm right down. It's really
weird.
strange, right?
It is.
I'm not wrong. Like I'm not just picking on this.
We got to
movie,
calm
right?
right down. Calm right. We got to calm down. We got to calm down right now. Right now we need to calm down.
There's some ADR in the movie that seems like ADR is by design meant to patch things. It's meant to fix things. But there's ADR in this movie that's just incredibly wooden and really false, and I don't know, man, I'm not a fan of the performances. They're really, I guess in some way it plays in atmospherically to like the dream-like state of the movie, because the performances I think are in and of themselves kind of a little off-kilter. Like something's a little bit wrong. But I don't think that's intentional. I don't think that's actually by design. I think it comes from...
comes from the direction?
Yeah. It comes from having a director who's not a native English speaker directing a cast of English speakers in an English movie. Yeah. And that's
got to be hard, weird. Though. That's got to be...
Definitely.
Be a
definitely. No, definitely. I definitely think that's... And, when you watch a movie like Brotherhood of the Wolf, which is a French film that is all in French, I don't speak French, but as far as like the emotionality of the performances in that movie, they all feel perfectly naturalistic to me. Now, I can't speak to specific line deliveries because, again, I don't speak the language, but I do feel like... I don't know. I feel like you can tell. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can still tell. It's something that still comes across. I don't know. I think directing a movie in not your native language has got to be tough.
Yeah.
So, this is the worst line in the entire movie. They used to say this place was haunted. I think they were right. Really? After all you've seen, that's the best you got?
We're just gonna say haunted.
Yeah.
We're just gonna say haunted and not...
Well, the weird thing is that
I think we're dead, we're in hell.
In the context of what they've seen already, it sounds like they should be talking about the entire town, right? But what they're actually talking about is the hotel that they're going to.
Right, because Sybil was the one who said they used to say this place was haunted.
Yeah, exactly.
Should Sybil not be weirded out about the ash falling down everywhere? Should that not have been a thing earlier on that she was like, why is this happening? If this is a town that she's been to before?
Rose felt the need to exclaim ashes to and by herself when she found them on her face, which is another little thing that's like, really? Like when she pulls it off of her face and she rubs it and it's black and gray, you can tell that it's ash.
Right.
You don't need a character to say, ashes? Ashes. So,
what do you think of this whole, I don't even know if we get to call it a storyline, but this whole thing with this character here, Anna?
Are you talking about the character or the performance?
I'm talking about the
character of Anna right
like
here, this redheaded young lady played by Tanya Allen. I guess to quote Tropic Thunder, never go full retard. And I'm afraid that her version of crazy, like cabin fevery cultist who's never maybe seen the outside world and is kind of trapped inside this psychological prison of sorts. Her take on that, it's a little derpy, just a smidge.
Derp. Yeah. Yeah, she is kind of derpy. I was really more talking about that I think it's like really random, the whole inclusion of this character, besides as a mode of transport to get them from here to inside the church.
She is kind of cannon fodder a little bit for Pyramid Head.
Yeah.
Which is one of the more disturbing scenes in the movie.
Yes, it is.
I think. The titty twister from hell, so to speak.
Pyramid Head is just awful. He is.
He's very
just
terrifying.
terrible.
I was reading some message boards online about this movie, and people really don't like how he's portrayed in this movie, which kind of surprises me. Well, in the games, he doesn't really do anything. Like,
yeah, you just see him like every now and then go by in the background or something.
I think if you get close to him, he will like kill you. Like, he'll cut you with his big old, I think it's called the Great Knife or something like that. He'll kill you with the Great Knife. But you wouldn't get that close to him, and he doesn't move fast, and sometimes he's just standing like behind a window, and you're like, holy shit, it's Pyramid Head. Yeah, it's terrifying.
I hate it.
So some people kind of take issue with the fact that he's supposed to be this super badass killing machine that'll rip your fucking flesh off, which, you know, I mean, I guess if you're really that committed to the idea of Pyramid Head is to just stand there and be creepy, okay, but the skin ripping scene is pretty fucked up.
It's pretty brutal.
And I think I kind of like it in this movie.
I'm fine with it. Whatever. I mean, I think he does his job too by just being when we do see him lurking around and stuff in the buildings, like I think he does both of it. I don't see what the big problem is. What, they thought he did too much in the movie then? That's what we're getting at?
They didn't like him, the fact that he actually killed people, and who wasn't just around to scare people, just standing there, I guess.
But I mean, you got to up the ante.
We're dwelling
right?
too much on internet lurkers.
Anyways, we just had a moment where your favorite thing happened, and they pulled a random picture out of a random key mailbox place thing.
Yeah.
I don't know, for one of the rooms. And they're just like, follow it. And I mean, I will say though that they had a key and they were led to this hotel, and then they open up the key box thing and they see
the drawing
and it's done by her daughter, and so they've got to keep following them.
At a certain point, I think, like, the moment that Rose sees Alessa actually drawing at the desk right before she falls through the fence thing. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
When she actually sees her drawing at the desk, I think that at that point, her following the drawings is a reasonable enough justification for her to not be a totally fucking crazy person who's like, look at this child's picture of a school. I guess it's time to go to the school. But the way that plot element is introduced in the first place is all the way back at the gas station when Sharon, or I guess it's Rose that finds Sharon's pictures that she's been drawing, and there's like a lot of black crayon on it, and they become distinctly darker and more disturbing looking, a little bit more grotesque, I suppose. And she asks Sharon why she changed her picture. And Sharon starts freaking out. She's like, I didn't change my picture. I didn't do it. I'm scared, Mommy. I'm scared. And of course, the line delivery is just wonderful there. But it actually sounds about like that.
Yeah, pretty close.
Scared, Mommy. I'm scared. I kind of appreciate the rejection of the horror trope of the incredulous parent. I kind of appreciate that.
Yeah.
But I think Rose could stand to be a bit more skeptical
but
of a daughter.
She doesn't have anything else to go off of. Like, there's nothing. This Ashtown, and then there are these pictures that her daughter did lying,
I guess,
strangely close to the car where she was maybe abducted from. And maybe she's thinking that someone stole her daughter and left these pictures in her place. You know,
I'm surprised you didn't mention the fact that she's not an incredulous parent in a horror film. That when her daughter says, I didn't change my pictures.
I didn't think about it till now, actually, until you just said that.
I mean, like, I kind of appreciated it, but at the same time, under the circumstances, she could have been like, really? You didn't change? You didn't change,
well,
sweetheart?
She said, I don't remember. And the mom thinks that she's sick, that something's wrong with her, that she's maybe having like blackout periods or something where she doesn't know what she's doing. So maybe the mom's just kind of agreeing with her because she thinks her daughter's sick and she doesn't want to upset her?
Sean Bean, when he was in just the scene before this, when he's in the records, the archives, I guess, looking at the police reports for Silent Hill, he pulls out a file that says it was filed by Gucci, by the same police detective that he's been hanging out with.
Yeah.
But the incident that they're talking about, the incident with the fire in Silent Hill, the town fire, was like 32 years ago. So how old does that make?
74, I think.
Yeah.
They said?
So how old does that make Gucci? Assuming that this movie actually takes place in the same year that it was released.
Or did it say Thomas
No,
Gucci?
but it said T. Gucci, but Gucci already said that his father was a barber.
Yeah, that's true.
When they were
also
driving through the town. So are we meant to believe? And we actually see him in a flashback later on when he shows up after the ritual goes bad in the flashback and all that stuff.
I don't know. Maybe we're meant to believe he's way older.
I guess so. Well, I mean,
but didn't he say something? He said something about when he found her, he didn't think she was going to be alive still, or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
So he did find her. I don't know, but I guess it would have been
32 years ago. I don't know how old he's supposed to be now, but I mean, he would have had to have been pretty young if he.
But she didn't die in the fire, though. She didn't die in the mine fires. If that's which are the things that happen, or she didn't get burned there. She got burned by her family. Was that wasn't in 74? Was it?
Yeah.
It was.
Yes. Yeah, that's when it was filed. It was filed in 74 too.
I don't know. Then I'm really confused.
And when it was filed by, it said filed by T. Gucci.
That's weird.
Isn't that? So
there's another discrepancy.
And he does show up. He does show up as a police officer, like in uniform, in the flashback after the ritual goes bad.
There's another weird discrepancy that I had concerning that.
What?
At the very beginning of the movie when the dad was looking, Rose just happened to, in her kidnapping of her daughter and taking her to Silent Hill, she left her browser open.
Yes.
And it said Silent Hill in the search bar. And he gets on the computer and he's like, Rose, no, what are you doing?
What have you done?
And he's scrolling through all of the websites she's been to. He's looking at her history. It's always a bad idea, man. and as he's looking through the history, we see a bunch of articles about Silent Hill. And when we're looking at these articles, it shows some real towns that I didn't mention these before, but they show some real ghost towns on the first page where they talk about Sylvan, Illinois. And
Illinois.
Yeah. And it's misspelled on the website too, but they also show a town in Tennessee called Nicholton.
I don't know that town. We're from Tennessee, but I don't know that town.
I looked it up and I couldn't find it. I actually got a ping like on MapQuest and stuff, but when I scrolled in, there wasn't any.
MapQuest.
Yeah, MapQuest popped up when I typed in Nicholton.
What?
It was really weird. and I was like looking at him, and it pulled me over to somewhere in Murfreesboro or Franklin, but I think it was just pulling up something else that was maybe
it's a little
close in name.
township or something.
It was pulling up something called Nestledown Estates, so maybe it was close in. They thought I was typing it wrong, but it was weird though. On the street where I pulled up Nicholtown, Tennessee, there was a road there that said Sulphur Springs Road, right?
Whoa.
Sulphur. Whoa. Anyways, back to my point, which is that on the website that he was looking at about Silent Hill in West Virginia, and it was going into the whole story of what happened in the town with the underground fire and all of that kind of stuff. The website was somebody's, I guess, blog about ghost towns, and in their blog they were talking about walking around with the detective, with Thomas Gucci.
Oh, really?
Yes. I paused it and I was being real anal and was reading through everything you could read when you pause.
Every piece of text.
Yeah. And And I was reading all the stories that were on there, and one of the stories on this website is of this blogger guy talking to Thomas Gucci, the detective who's in this movie, and he's getting a tour of Silent Hill. And they're walking around, and the detective tells him about one time, he says, the quote is, "We had one sicko snatch a kid in Gaines County or Gans County 3 years back. He cut that kid into pieces and dumped the corpse into a sulfur vent. We couldn't get the body out. It's still there." He says in the quote on the website, Thomas Gucci says, "We couldn't get the body out. It's still there." At the end of this movie, toward the end of this movie, he's going to have a conversation. Thomas Gucci's going to have a conversation with the dad where he's going to talk about Sybil. And he talks about how one time somebody dropped a kid off in one of the sulfur vents.
Yeah, she already mentioned it earlier, too.
And he says that she stayed with the kid for 3 days. He says Sybil stayed with that kid for 3 days and got him to make sure he was safe and got him out of there.
Yeah.
But granted, what other crazy person pauses it and reads everything on the screen? But on the website information, they had completely contradictory information out of the mouth of the same character.
Oh, wow. I don't think you're meant to pause it and read every little bit of text that pops up on the screen.
But I did, and it broke my, belief in this world.
Let's talk about Dahlia. Dahlia is played by Deborah Kara Unger. In the police report, it says that at the time of the incident in 1974, she was 33 years old, which would make her 65 years old if this actually takes place in the year that it came out in 2006. The actress who plays Dahlia is so obviously not 65 years old and is in a really, really terrible wig and really, really terrible makeup. She was only 42 when this movie was made.
Yeah.
And
yeah, you can tell.
Of course, in the flashbacks, she's younger, so she doesn't have all of the makeup and the terrible wig and all that kind of stuff. But there are so few flashbacks with Dahlia as a young woman that I'm not sure why they saw fit to cast her as the older Dahlia as well, because she looks terrible. And not in the good way. She looks terrible as Dahlia.
It looks like they just didn't care. They were just like, "Oh, I'm gonna make her old. Put this wig on her."
She looks like she belongs in a high school production of something.
I think she's supposed to be old. You can tell by the gray hair.
So this is the titty twister of doom scene, starring my friend and yours, Pyramid Head.
Yeah, everybody's friend.
But yeah, like these shots right here that's got him framed in the center with all of like the rotting earth like floating up to the sky as it does when the other world happens. And as he tears off her clothes and rips off her skin. Ooh, that's brutal.
Yeah.
It is.
And they get the little blood
brutal.
Splat on their face as they close the door.
I mentioned this shot earlier. There's a shot that I think it's in this scene where it like trucks right up to the two characters, Rose and Sybil, and I don't know, it just looks really strangely like
did we already
interlaced
pass it?
Video. No, I don't think so. I think it's about to do it here in a second. Maybe this one, maybe it's this shot. Yeah, it's that shot right there that looks a little bit
there are a couple weird moments in this movie.
Yeah, it's those shots right there that are kind of floating over the crowd that look a little video-y. But to be fair, I guess the darkness has come. We are in the other world now.
We are. And if we're staying within those rules of video in the other world, then that makes sense. So. But
now we're meeting the cult for the first time, and I guess this is the first time we're seeing the cult leader, Christabella.
So is this supposed to be the Order then? I guess this is the Order?
Yeah, they never say it's the Order, but I think it's obviously supposed to be a stand-in for the Order if it's not them specifically, but yeah.
But in the movie, these people are all dead already, right? And that's...
In the movie?
Right.
They're already dead?
I
didn't get that.
What?
Really?
Really?
No, I didn't get that from the movie.
Are you serious?
Please explain. What is this theory? Did I miss something entirely?
I was under the impression that that all these people are already, like, we're in purgatory or something, and all these people are already dead, but because of their faith, they haven't like passed on or something, or gone to hell or whatever, and that it's not real. I mean, this place isn't real.
So, okay.
This isn't the real world, because we've seen the real world, and the real world is the Silent Hill that the father and the detective were walking through.
But
these people aren't there.
I understand that, obviously, but I'm also really willing to just kind of throw out all of the Sean Bean stuff, because it is so ineffectual and does not, like, it feels
but
like...
But that's a different place than this.
It is, but I feel like without that stuff, like without the Sean Bean stuff, this is not a different place.
But the Sean Bean stuff is there. So that means that these people are in a different world, which has got to be like a purgatory or something. I think they died in the fire. I mean, he talks about all the people who went missing. He talks about when the fires happened, they didn't have time and stuff, and a lot of people died because of the gases, and that a lot of people disappeared. They disappeared in the web articles that I was talking about that you scrolled through. That I scrolled through. You did not, because you aren't as crazy as me. And apparently nobody pauses that and does that. So,
well, I do that too sometimes.
But he talked about how hundreds, in the web article, it said that deadly sulfur dioxide fumes spread before fires were even seen, and many people in houses died in their sleep. And hundreds of bodies were not found at all. And the chief of police at the time said that a lot of the people went out into the forest, maybe to escape the flames, and they just didn't come back.
Okay, you've seen the sequel. I haven't. How does the sequel address that theory based on... I mean, because if that's to be believed, then the end of the movie, when Rose and Sharon come back to the house and they're obviously still in a different world from Christopher... who doesn't see that they're there, and the door's open, but he goes outside. He looks outside, and there's no one there.
They have to like go into Silent World. In the sequel, the dad gets kidnapped by the Order, and they take him to Silent Hill. And
does the sequel in any way kind of expound on the idea that it is purgatory and that these people are dead?
I don't remember. When I watched it, I was really, really half watching it.
I thought you were going to say really, really high. I was
no,
like,
that
whoa,
would have been probably a lot better. No, I was like really half watching it, and it was just kind of on because I knew it was bad, and I didn't really pay attention to it. But I do remember that there is a distinct but see, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't remember if there were in this movie there are three worlds. There are three states of being.
It appears, yes, that appears to be the case.
There's
three distinct worlds.
The normal place that you and I live in.
That Sean Bean seems to be in.
And then there's the Ash Town of Silent Hill.
Right.
And then there's the other world of Silent Hill.
Right.
Which is when the demony stuff,
when
super demony,
when the
not,
world
not
rots
normal demony, but like crazy demony stuff happens.
Right, when the world rots and Pyramid Head starts passing out titty twisters.
Right. And I don't remember in the sequel or not whether or not there are three worlds or two worlds, if you get what I'm saying. I think it's going to be... I think it's three again. I think it's the same kind of thing, and they've got to go back into this Silent Hill otherworld place, and I don't remember. It was really silly. But it had some creepy. It had some creepy stuff in it too. Like, I mean, there were creepy shots still.
So, the shot, the camera angle that we got just before this, pulling up to them walking up here in the balcony area of this church, you could see written on the wall, it read, Domine Deus omnipotens e cuis manu omnis victoria consistit, which translates as, O Lord God Almighty, in whose hand all victory rests. This is, as I understand it, a portion of an Old English prayer from the pre-conquest period, and the rest probably would read, "And all war is destroyed. Grant me that thy hand may strengthen my heart, so I may fight well and act courageously, so my enemies may fall before my sight."
That's just
lovely, isn't it?
lovely.
There's a whole lot of that in this movie as far as like the religious rhetoric is concerned, and the stuff that's taken right out of the Bible verses and things like that. All of them seem to be like, the righteous will win and the wicked will be slain, that kind of stuff. And the God is gonna punch you in the dick, that kind of stuff.
The one that was on the billboard about, do you not know that we will judge angels and all that stuff. I looked that up, and I was looking in better context of what's around that, and it seems like the point around those words actually are kind of very different from the point that this movie is really making.
Yeah.
And the point around those words seemed to be, it was talking about...
You mean the verses around that verse?
Right.
Yeah.
If you put it into context, instead of just randomly pulling some random sentences that sound cool out of the Bible and being like...
You mean like a lot of
do
modern
you not
Christians
know
do?
that we will judge angels? Do you not know that the saints will judge the world?
How badass does that sound?
I don't really know what it means, but fuck yeah, I guess. And but actually, like, in context, I think what that verse is trying to say is it's talking about Christians are family,
Yeah.
like that they're all brothers and sisters, and that they shouldn't be fighting about trivial things, and that if you didn't fight about trivial things and you realized that peace was more important than victory, then you had succeeded. And obviously that's not a message that this movie is
This movie doesn't
using
know
thematically. So.
Yeah, this movie doesn't know what it's saying, because if you think about any one of its ideas, like we said before, deeper than just the superficial surface level of how the concept is introduced, then you find that either the movie doesn't have anything else to say about that particular thing, or outright contradicts the thing that it's saying. The phrase that was just that I mentioned earlier, that was just said in the scene prior to this, Sybil says to Rose, "Mother is," what is it? A mother is God in the eyes of a child.
Yeah.
And that's obviously calling, it's making a connection with other themes in the movie of, religion and those kinds of things, and faith, but also tying it into motherhood in what one would hope or assume would be a significant way or thematically satisfying way. But there is nothing else in the movie that would inform the concept of motherhood as anything other than just a thing that is in this movie. It doesn't have an opinion on motherhood.
Even
like
coming out of Sybil's mouth, I would like, when that line came out of her mouth, I was like, why is she saying that?
Well, not only that, but
Like, what?
they try, I guess they try to strengthen
that line at the end.
Strengthen that line at
when
the
she
end. When
dies.
she dies, she says, "Mama, be with me."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I mean, you get the
but
idea that she had a mother, I guess.
I guess that she liked her.
Yeah, she had a mom and she liked her.
They had a good relationship. Maybe mom's dead now.
So I guess
I don't know. But what even is Sybil's character? Like, what is? I mean, she's the badass cop woman. What else do we know about her at all?
we don't know anything about her, but like even like her most basic motivations don't seem to make sense. Like at the beginning, toward the beginning of the movie, when they're first in Silent Hill and Sybil catches up to Rose and arrests her for the first time, Rose says, "My daughter's gone. I need your help." Everyone up to this point has been like, "Don't fucking go to Silent Hill, yo. There's a coal fire up there. It's been burning a long time. It's going to fuck you up." And
Don't go up there.
Crazy shit's been going on. Maybe not crazy shit, but it's like there's a reason that the road's closed. Like, just don't go up there. You can't get up there. And then so it's basically known that it's common knowledge that Silent Hill is a dangerous place, or it's a place that you don't go, maybe not for supernatural reasons, but just because you don't fucking go there. And Rose is telling this police officer that her daughter is lost in Silent Hill, and the police officer's like, "Well, we're going to walk you all the way the fuck back to the station." instead of going to
searching
look for
the
your
little
daughter.
girl.
Like, here, I'll put you in cuffs and stick you in your car. You probably won't get far in cuffs, so you stay there. I'm going to go find your daughter.
Right.
But no, she's just like, nope, we're going to go back to the station. Your daughter can wait,
The little girl who's lost here can
the
wait.
9-year-old who's
And
she
she's
can
like,
wait
"Is
in the
that?
coal
How do I know
mines."
that's even your daughter?"
Yes, and
You're just like, "Whoa."
I think it's possible that the writers maybe had no great love for police officers because
yeah, and like a following line is "fuck you, you stupid cop." Yeah. So pretty sure that's not a really stretching.
And then you've got Gucci
idea right there.
Gucci, who's kind of more or less outright evil, or like he obstructs justice, himself because
They're hiding things.
They're hiding things. He wants to bury the skeletons of the past and all that kind of stuff. The really weird thing to me is that if you assume that all of these people are actually dead and that the town fire was an actual town fire that actually destroyed things and actually killed people, if you go that route and you believe that
well, in the story, it was an actual town fire that actually killed people and destroyed things.
Yeah, okay. Like if you go that route and you believe that, then it's almost as if you have to reject the idea that it was a cover-up by the cult, because I felt like that was the other side of it, because that's also the way that Gucci kind of acts about it. Like, Gucci seems to be the guy who wants to cover up the fact that it was a cult acting in the town that caused the fire in the first place, and that's why they closed the town, and it's real hush-hush, and no one wants to talk about it, and you don't want to dig too deep, and even Sean Bean's character is like, is this what you call justice? And he's like, there's many different kinds of justice in the world, and that kind of shit, right? So, I don't know what exactly they wanted. I don't know what his motivation would be to cover up the cult, unless it was really just a town fire like they want everyone to believe. Like, which way is it? Because the movie seems to contradict itself, I think, in that way. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like how if it was just a town fire and people don't go up there because the fires are still burning down below, that's one thing. That's the reason the town is closed. But if it's actually that the reason the town fire happened was because of this cult's, ceremony, the sacrificial ceremony gone wrong, and that maybe not all the people died that they said died, and you can kind of tell because not all the buildings are all burned up and fucked up. Like, as you drive through the town, it's obvious that things aren't quite as fucked up as people act like they are. I think that's really kind of clear even. Then which is it? Because Gucci seems to act as though it is kind of a cover-up.
Here, getting away from that point for a second, here we've got the nurses.
Yeah, probably my favorite scene in the movie.
Definitely one of the creepiest scenes in the movie, if not the creepiest scene in the movie.
Yeah, the previous shot where they kind of shake to life was actually shot in reverse and then reversed back, so that it would give kind of like an otherworldly.
Yeah, and it worked.
Yeah, but all this stuff right here, as I understand it, is they're just professional dancers,
and they just do it so well. They are so unsettling. It's just. I don't think there's any film trickery going on here. There's no CG enhancements, nothing. It's just professional dancers and contortionists and acrobats and whoever, those kinds of people that can manipulate their body in amazing ways, in costume, doing incredibly creepy things. Yeah. And it's awesome. She has to walk through them. I don't really like her talking to herself there and being like, I can do this. Yeah. She does that a couple times in this movie, and it's not...
like when she crosses the bridge before she sees Alessa drawing at the desk, she's like, come on. I'm like, come on, who are you talking to?
And I get it. Not that we don't all pep ourselves up before we do something scary.
I tweak my nipples.
That's good that everybody knows that
I just
now.
want to see how hard I could derail this podcast.
But I don't know. It just feels like one of those inner monologue kind of things. Like, we don't generally say it out loud.
Yeah.
I love the nurses starting to slash each other's throats open.
Because they can't see. They can't see anything, so they're just slashing
wildly and cutting each other's throats open as she crawls between them.
And this resourceful little minx here sets up the flashlight to distract them as she runs away. And then I guess the last shot you see of them is them all gathered around the flashlight, the torch. Now, this is... Starting at this point, we get all of the backstory.
Yeah, they just dump it
They just
on us.
dump it on us.
And it's pretty much from here, maybe from here on out. And that's unfortunate because we've still got like more 37 minutes left in the movie, but including credits and stuff. But I don't know. From this point on in the movie, I just kind of always lose interest when I start watching it. When I'm watching this movie,
it gets a little boring. Yeah.
I really, really do love the stuff up until this point. I really think it's eerie. I think all the stuff of them exploring Silent Hill and coming in contact with the creatures and the other world and trying to dance back and forth between the two worlds and figure it out. I mean, I don't care about the stuff with Sean Bean. It's pretty much throwaway. You hit those scenes and you go get a drink in the kitchen. Like, it doesn't matter. But then when we get to this point and it's just like, okay, we're going to explain everything. And they do. And then after they explain everything, they explain some more. And then we get the whole burning scene and stuff at the end. And not that that's not unsettling, because it is, but it kind of feels like one of those endings where it's like they didn't really know where to go. So they were like, well, we're just going to wrap this up with a good old witch burning and then some demon final boss battle at the end here.
It is very final boss battle. We've missed a couple of the other video gamey elements, like her memorizing the map.
Yeah.
And having, like, because Christabella shows her the map of the hospital and shows her where Alessa is supposed to be in the basement, and she says, memorize this map, it might save your life. So she sits there and tries to memorize the map, like, legitimately, and she's like,
left,
right, left, right. AB start select.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, I think that actually kind of works. It's one of the more video gamey elements that I think actually works in the movie. This whole thing right here, though, the flashback we're getting explains that since the town was built by fanatical witch hunters, every so often they would gather to offer a witch up for burning in order to purify the town. Now, Dahlia, I guess, had Alessa out of wedlock, and she wouldn't name the father. Mm-hmm. She wouldn't, I guess, out the father, whoever knocked her up. Which I guess was the bigger sin, is that, you know, they were left to assume that she just got pregnant.
Yeah.
I guess, like, I don't know,
like a virgin birth or something.
Yeah, they never say it outright, but I don't know if is that what they're leading to. Know. I'm not sure what they.
Or they're all getting upset because they want to know which one of their husbands cheated on them.
What's it called? Immaculate Conception or something like that. Yeah. So the night of the Silent Hill fire, Dahlia and Alessa arrive at the hotel, which is where we are now in the flashback for this burning ritual. And Christabella took Alessa, saying that they combat the sin and not the sinner. They fight the sin and not the sinner. And then during the ritual here, the iron bed holding Alessa comes unsecured. We're seeing this happen right now. And it knocks over the brazier below her, and it ignites the town fire, and the cultists escape. And we're going to see Gucci show up here after the cultists and everybody escape. We'll see the police come in, and you should recognize Gucci as a younger man. So I guess we are meant to believe that he was working as a police officer 32 fucking years ago, which seems kind of nuts. He doesn't look that old to me, but, you know. Dahlia doesn't look like she's 65 either.
No, she doesn't. Is this Gucci here who's pulling her off the...
Yeah, that's what that was.
Yeah,
him.
That's him. Does he look any younger?
Yeah, that's it. No, of course not. Of course he doesn't look.
Why? I don't understand.
But they didn't have to put him in a gray wig.
But are we sure that this is what started the fires? Are we sure this is what is supposed to have started the coal fires that are underneath the town?
Yeah, I guess. I'm not sure. I don't know if that's... And that's the thing that I'm saying.
Or if the coal fires even exist at all, or if it's just a cover-up.
Right. The whole thing that I was thinking was that I think we're meant to believe that the Silent Hill fire wasn't as big as everyone has been making it out to be, and that they actually used the fire at the hotel and the subsequent, ghost townification as a cover-up for the fact that they were burning people alive. Because once their ritual goes wrong and the police show up, and all of it is kind of ousted, right? That all of these terrible things have been going on, instead of copping to it and saying, yes, the police let everyone down because we weren't on this sooner, and we've lost who knows how many people over the years to this terrible, stupid, senseless, ritualistic sacrifice. They decide to cover it up and say, oh, there was a town fire, and you cultists just stay in the town. You just stay here and you lock yourselves up. But this whole supernatural stuff that's happening has apparently happened because Alessa, all of her pain and her fear and all of the betrayal and everything has turned to hate, and she's making a deal with the devil right here. She's making a deal with the demon in this very scene, and we can see that this hospital room is the core or the starting point that created the other world. This is, I guess, we're seeing the other world come to life for the first time in that moment. And then Rose wakes back up, and she's in the room, and Alessa's still here. Now, my interpretation of the movie, the interpretation that I prefer, is the interpretation where Sean Bean's character and all of that shit aren't even in the fucking movie. Like, I know they're in the movie, but it screws up all of this other stuff so royally that I can't get behind it. Like, there's no point to any of this if they're all dead anyway. Like, I prefer the idea that this was a cover-up and that there maybe aren't any coal fires, and maybe there wasn't a town fire and they did just cover it up, and the cultists are locked in this evil town for doing what they did. And it is, in a way, its own purgatory, but they're not actually dead. Like, they're just trapped in this haunted town that, every so often becomes a hellscape. That's what I like better. I don't like the idea that just because they needed more men in the movie, or any men at all for that matter, that they had to introduce this stupid, superfluous plot line where Sean Bean walks around and does nothing, and then apparently there's some ambiguous ending about they're not in the same universe, so maybe they're dead, or maybe they're not, or something. I don't know. I don't know. I feel like the movie screws itself with that garbage.
Yeah, well, it gets too convoluted. It gets convoluted, and it loses sight of whatever points it was trying to make in the first place, which it never makes anyways. And it, more importantly than all of that, it loses sight of the fact, it gets so caught up in all this backstory and you sitting here trying to think about which world we're in and why which Alessa is which Cheryl, Alessa, who,
yeah,
like,
and I mean,
you get so confused with all of it.
This stuff right here about Sharon being brought to the orphanage, you have to ask yourself, first of all, how did Alessa get pregnant to have Sharon? You can say, okay, maybe the demon impregnated Alessa, and then she had this baby.
Well, did they say she had a baby?
Yeah, Sharon is Alessa's baby.
Is her baby?
Yes, it's her child.
Okay. I thought she was just like a split off part of her soul like it is in the game.
No, I mean, the way they explain it is she's what's left of Alessa's goodness.
Right, but I didn't think there was like a physical birth.
Well, there was a baby.
Right, but it's, a supernatural baby.
Okay. Immaculate conception?
No, there was no birth. It just pop, and then there's a baby on the side of the road.
Well, all right, whatever the case is, I don't know, there's this whole like weird time thing that I don't understand. Like, why wait? So Sharon is 9 years old at this point. In this movie, they make mention that she's a 9-year-old girl, right? Mm-hmm. But this whole incident happened 32 years ago. Is that right? Was it 32 years ago?
I don't remember.
Yeah, it's 32. It was 32 years. It was 74. This is 2006. So 32 years ago, which means that they would have waited, what, like 23 years for Sharon to be born? Why?
Yeah,
was there something significant? Like, why was Sharon just born 9 years ago?
Why are we even talking about it, though, if we're talking about a movie where the policeman who's supposed to be in the real world is also in the flashbacks that you say are from 74? Yes. Those flashbacks are from 74?
Right. He's supposed to be a younger man, I think. I think it's just a fuck up.
I mean, that's just silly. I mean, and that's when we're talking about this movie not being a good movie, because when it comes down to it, that kind of stuff is just ruins it.
Yeah.
Like, it ruins the possibility of it being a good movie because there's so much convoluted crap in there like that.
Convoluted crap that doesn't actually mean anything. Like, there's nothing resonant in this movie. There's nothing that you can actually latch on to and say like, oh, that's a really interesting idea about revenge, because the demon's whole thing is that it wants revenge. Okay, so what are we going to learn about revenge from this movie? Just the most facile, simple idea about revenge. Anything at all. Give me a moral stance on it. None. There's no moral stance on it. I mean, if anything, the movie is just like, revenge is good, right?
Yeah, it's okay.
It's cool. You take care of it.
You're
That's
still
what
in
we
purgatory
want. Yeah.
afterwards, but you did it, and it was okay.
In this scene right here, we're seeing Sharon for the first time.
You don't take revenge on your mom.
You don't take revenge. Is that the moral of the story? Don't take revenge on your mom, even though she let cultists steal you away and burn you alive. That scene right there was the first scene that we saw Sharon, who's been hanging out in this apartment with Dahlia for God knows how long.
Yeah, I guess that's what we're meant to believe.
And like, at what point did Dahlia pick up Sharon? I mentioned earlier that maybe she took her from the car from the beginning, but if that's the case, why did she freak out so hard about?
Are we sure she was hanging out with her? Like, I know Dahlia went into that room, but
they were in the apartment together.
They were in there together.
Yeah,
I thought Dahlia went in there. Like,
no, she came through some bead curtains. Like, they were in the same apartment. Yeah, so
they were just chilling.
The guys dressed up in the miners' costumes, and Christabella kicked down the door. And as they came in, Sharon started screaming and ran behind a table, and Dahlia runs in through a bead curtain from another room.
Okay, so they were just hanging out. They
but
were.
At what point Dahlia acquired
TV.
Sharon? I mean, who knows?
I guess she stole her out of the car.
But if she did that, why did she freak out so hard at the picture of
so maybe
inside
after
her
she
wallet?
saw the picture, then or maybe she was joking. She was pretend freaking out.
She's just joking.
No, maybe after she saw the picture, she went and she found Sharon and she stole her and put her in her apartment.
Yeah, just for a goof.
No, that wasn't for a goof. If she stole her out of the car, then the goof was that she reacted surprised, even though she had already stolen the child.
Let's be real. She's not that good an actress.
This woman in blue, isn't she
Christabella?
Yeah, she's from the Star Trek movies.
Yeah,
right?
Star Trek First Contact. She was the Queen Borg.
Oh, yes.
That makes out with Patrick Stewart in the
Does she make out with Patrick Stewart? I thought she made out with Data. Or was it Data? I thought she made out with Data.
It's one of them, and it's super sexy. With all like the wires and tubes and H.R. Giger bullshit coming out of her head.
I thought she made out with Data. I don't remember. It's been a really long time.
Yeah, so this is a pretty fucked up scene where Sybil gets burned alive.
Yeah, it's awful.
The CG is a little dated. It's a little bit dated, but it's still pretty. I don't know. I think it's still pretty powerful, and it's still pretty emotional. Still. Like it kind of hurts. I think.
Yeah. Yeah, it's unsettling.
Yeah, definitely unsettling. But
and her makeup here is pretty good too. I mean, with all her face being all swollen from getting the shit beaten out of her by all the villagers.
Yeah. Speaking of which, during the Dark Nurses scene, Radha Mitchell actually got punched in the face by one of the Dark Nurses.
Oh, for real?
I don't think the actresses actually couldn't see out of those masks and prosthetics that were on their faces, so them flailing around and shit that they had to do in the scene was just wild flailing, and I guess she got hit in the face.
Yeah, well, it's bound to happen.
That's a hazard of the job. But so this is a very, very important question that I think is answered poorly in the movie, and that is, well, first let's establish the cultists are bad, right?
Yeah.
Just if we're talking...
I mean, they're burning our cop alive here,
right.
So...
We're talking pure, like, black and white morals, no gray area. They're bad, right? Let's if we have to put them in a camp, they're bad.
Yeah. They're bad.
Are they right, though?
What do you mean? Like...
Okay.
Because...
This gets... It's a little bit complicated. It's a little bit convoluted, but... If the story is to be believed as it is presented to the audience, it is the cultists' fault that the demon appeared in the first place, but also because of the cultist faith, it keeps that same demon at bay. And inside the church, the cultists are safe from the thing
the
that
other world
they
and all
kind
that
of
stuff.
created.
Right.
So like
like
intention,
them trying
yeah.
to stay alive now.
Right. Their intention as fanatics and as witch hunters was to purify the town, to keep it pure, to keep it clean and holy and all that kind of stuff. So any kind of perceived sin would be punished by a witch burning,
right?
Basically. Something that actually has quite a bit of context in American society. It is widely regarded to be one of the most colossal blunders in all of American history is the Salem witch trials and all that kind of shit. And everyone widely regards them to be the reason that they're blunders is because innocent people died.
Yeah, of course.
A lot of innocent people died. And well, maybe I guess it wasn't a lot, but it was
not as many as
not as many as we're meant to believe.
Movies and television shows want us to
one
believe.
Is one too many, but still. Right. Taking that, we have to assume that if that's our base of knowledge from American culture for all of that, then the people who do the witch burnings are wrong. They're in the wrong, obviously, because they're burning people for no good reason. But
in this world, I mean, I guess there is a reason if there is actual demon.
Yeah, that's true.
Stuff going on,
which is kind of my question. There were no demons before they tried to burn this little girl, Alessa, and then because Alessa didn't die in the burning and her hate and fear and all that shit turned to, rage and caused her to make a deal with a real demon that showed up. But then the real demon who wanted revenge against the cultists for doing this thing to Alessa can't actually get to the cultists because their faith is too strong. So are the cultists right or are they wrong?
But I mean,
they're right because, are they right because they were wrong?
Well, I don't think you get to call them right or wrong. I mean, I think that they're right about keeping their faith if they want to stay alive because they created this problem and that's the only way they're going to stay alive is if they hide away in this church. And so I guess they're right about that. But I mean, if we're talking about right or wrong, like morally, then obviously they're wrong because they created the problem in the first place by burning a child.
I'm not talking about morally. Morally, they're dog shit. But I'm talking about, are they correct in... Because I'm just working from the assumption...
Are they correct in, burning Sybil here? Is that what you're asking?
Well, I mean, not just that, but, just their actions in general. I feel like their actions end up...
Well, they're staying alive.
Right. Their actions end up kind of justifying themselves in a weird way. It's their fault the demon exists in the first place, but it's also their stupid, crazy, fanatical faith that's keeping the demon from getting to them. So they're right because they were wrong, or... I don't know. It's weird. It's almost kind of strangely contradictory.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying. It is convoluted. But
so at the end of the day, do you agree with the cultists or not? Are they doing what they should be doing at this point?
Yeah, sure. They're doing what they should be doing if they want to stay alive. And so they keep their crazy faith and they stay alive. But I don't think they exist. They aren't real. They're in purgatory. They aren't actually here, so it doesn't matter. Because come on, they can't actually be alive. How are they eating if they just stay inside this church all the time? When
we first met the character Anna,
right? She was going out to get food,
right.
and the head lady was all like, "Well, she went outside without permission on her own, and so she was scavenging for food, but she wasn't supposed to be."
Okay.
She said because Anna's mom got all upset when Pyramid Head ripped off her skin, and I mean, rightly so,
Right.
And she blamed Rose and Sybil for it. And the priestess woman, the leader of the order, she was all like, it's not their fault. They aren't responsible for Anna. And you have to remember, she went against our rules and went outside on her own.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I don't think they're alive. I think they're in purgatory, and they think that none of it matters. It's just, like you said, the whole movie has a sheen over it. It's surreal. It's a dream. It's not real. So when you try and make the pieces fit together, it doesn't work.
But even the Sean Bean stuff kind of has that sheen. I'm just talking about like from a visual standpoint, the whole movie.
No, I
feels
know what you mean. I know what you mean. But I'm saying, like, all of this stuff, it's not. This isn't a real place. It's definitely purgatory. We don't have demon creatures walking around in an ash-covered city. Like, that's...
Yes.
It's purgatory. They're dead, so it doesn't matter. But their faith is keeping the demon from enacting its vengeance upon them until this moment when Rose brings the demon into the church, and the demon comes inside on a bed, lifted up by barbed wires.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it's a pretty creepy effect. Like,
yeah, but it's definitely boss battle.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely boss battle. Definitely.
Final boss,
and we've got barbed wire monster against all townsfolk.
She kind of looks like Barbara from Beetlejuice when she's getting all messed up when Otho's doing the
and
the
like
seance.
she's decomposing and
she's
stuff.
decomposing. She's kind of the makeup effect.
Yeah,
on,
it's kind of the
Alessa
same.
Here kind of looks similar to
thing.
that. Yeah, this scene gets like it with all of the crazy shit that's in this movie and all of the really gruesome, fucked up stuff in this movie. I think this scene actually manages to go one step too far.
One step too far?
One step
too far. You think it's too far?
I think it's
You're talking about this moment right here.
Well, the moment that's coming up where Christabella gets raped by barbed wire.
Yeah.
I think what it ends up leading to, like the barbed wire is coming out of her chest and all that kind of stuff,
like,
and
then
ripping her
eventually
apart.
Rips her apart.
Rips her apart.
That's
I don't
cool,
think that's so much of a problem, but I don't know. I just don't.
Right.
This moment right here.
Getting raped with barbed wire is maybe too much.
It might be too. I mean, because it doesn't really. Does it do anything?
You don't
for the
get
movie?
to say too much. You don't get to say too much.
No such thing as too much, right?
You don't get to say it. So it's a horror movie, and it's being really gory, and it pushed the limits there. I'm just surprised it didn't get cut.
Yeah, it's kind of shocking. There's some stuff in this movie that I'm surprised didn't get cut. Like, I think the skin ripping is kind of... I'm kind of surprised it didn't get cut either. I don't know. There's a lot of really grotesque stuff in this movie. Yeah, but most of all the blood and stuff in this scene is CG and looks really terrible.
Yeah. The barbed wire is not particularly great.
The barbed wire looks really bad. But... Yeah,
I like this
shot.
This little look here, Alessa kind of looking over and being like, "Yeah, I did that.
I killed that guy for you.
I killed him."
Yeah.
Rose had a guy coming at her, and she took care of it.
If only she could give like a little thumbs up.
Got you. I got your back, boo.
Top Gun theme. Thumbs up from Alessa. Up until the moment that. That happened just before where Rose is approached by a man and she stabs him under the chin with a knife. Up until that moment, Rose was not a murderer.
But now she is.
Now she's a murderer.
But hey, she was trying to get to her daughter and he was impeding her. So she stabs him in the throat with a knife.
Well,
it's fine.
A mother is God in the eyes of a child. And
God can do whatever God wants to.
God is a murderer.
So... And then there's this whole thing here where Sharon and Rose are together and they close their eyes. I mean, I got to be honest, Mom. I don't think like you want to close your daughter's eyes in this scene. That's fine. You're doing a crappy job because your hand is actually over her nose and not her eyes. So you're
Mom, I can't breathe.
kind of, But I don't really think Mom should be closing her eyes during this scene. I think she should be looking to see if anyone else wants to come up and kill them. And then Alessa comes up and looks into Sharon's eyes, and Sharon passes out.
You know what I think could have...
I guess Alessa possesses her.
You know what I think could have saved the performance on maybe not Sharon's side of things, but Alessa's side of things as the little girl.
Oh, and I'm sorry, not Alessa possessing her, the demon
Right.
possesses
Well, the demon,
Sharon.
Yeah, the demon that takes the form of Alessa as a child.
Right.
Right. I think the thing that probably could have saved a performance, at least on the demon Sharon or the demon Alessa's side, is maybe like a voice thing, like that. There's that whole
Physically,
scene.
I think she does fine.
She looks-
her little
right.
creepy walk and stuff is.
She looks
I think it's
okay, but
fine.
like she is made to say some really cheesy, terrible lines about like they're hiding their fear and the pain of the darkness of the soul and the blah blah blah
Yeah.
and all that shit in the scene in the hospital
Yeah.
where she's talking to Rose right before she gets absorbed into her body. I feel like that would have been creepier and maybe saved the scene a little bit for me had her voice been like an evil demon voice coming out of a little girl. That would have worked, I think.
maybe
Maybe
scratchy or something. Just
Anything at all, right?
Just something.
But yeah. I don't
Why
know.
is she sucking her thumb in this scene? I don't know why she was directed to suck her thumb.
I think that's a director's choice right there.
I think so too.
Man,
and
why did I not
really
notice
don't
that
like it.
before? I never noticed that before. That's terrible.
Yeah. She's, and then
You are a
like
little girl, and little girl suck your thumb.
And then
so
I guess
you are
like
safe now, so you'll suck
they
your thumb.
when she opens her eyes and we get this look of like I'm actually the demon for a brief moment. Then it's like she's not sucking her thumb right then because she's the demon.
That's what you interpreted that as.
Yeah,
Is
and
that
then
what
like
that
she
is?
puts her thumb back in her mouth. I'm pretending. Look, I'm a little girl. Little girls suck their thumb. I'm not a demon. I guess that's what we were going for.
So it took Christoph Gans 5 years to obtain the rights to make this film, and he was given the rights after he sent Konami, the video game company that publishes the Silent Hill games. He gave them a video of an interview describing how much Silent Hill means to him, and along with the
Wow.
interview, he sent scenes that he filmed on his own dollar, cut up and overlaid with music from the games, and they were like, "Yep, rights are
Wow.
yours."
Wow, that's crazy cool.
He's a fanboy,
Yeah,
no doubt about it.
clearly.
I mean, and the fact that he did the Crying Freeman
What?
the Crying Freeman movie years ago, he's totally an otaku, totally 100% an otaku, and that's okay with me. Like after seeing this movie, and I've seen Brotherhood of the Wolf, which I like quite a bit. I think it's a really fun kind of weird kung fu movie. When I heard he had the rights to do Onimusha and he was working on that, I was like, okay, I guess. I mean, sure, why not? I'm kind of glad that project is dead in the water, because if it ever happens again and someone else picks it up, I don't know. I hope it will be someone that's not Christoph Gans.
Before this movie ends, because we're getting really close
Yeah.
here, we didn't actually talk about the real town. We started to talk about it, but we didn't
Oh, yeah, go
actually
ahead.
talk about it. So what the internet likes to call the real town of the movie is in Pennsylvania, Centralia in Columbia County. And in 1962, a landfill located in an abandoned strip mine pit was burned for like cleaning, like they were clearing the landfill. And there are a few theories about how the fire got started in the coal mines, the abandoned coal mines underneath the town. But it's very likely that they didn't fully put out the fire after they were burning the landfill. It's also another possible theory is that the day before some burning coal had been dumped down there and that fire hadn't been fully put out. And then there's like a maybe crazy theory that some people think that a coal fire from 1932 was still burning and that it just eventually in 62 reached the rest of the coal mines, and that's how the big fire started.
Wow.
But a huge fire started underneath the town in these coal mines, and In 79, so this fire started in 62. In 79, the townsfolk realized that there was a really big problem when a gas station owner, who was the mayor at the time, tested the temperature of his underground gas tanks, of the gasoline in the underground tanks, and they were over 170 degrees Fahrenheit.
Whoa.
Yeah, and they were like, oh,
That's
shit.
dangerous
I guess
as
we
fuck.
got a problem.
Yeah.
And so over time, they proceeded to evacuate the town, but it's still there for a long time. I guess there was ash and smoke covering the city. Asphalt melted. There were cracks and chasms everywhere. Carbon monoxide still flows from cracks in the road.
Wow. So the town is shut down.
But like 10 people still live there. They kind of refuse to leave, and
Oh
they
my
still have
God.
houses out there. But when they're gone, then I guess after they die, then the town really will be like condemned entirely. But people predict that the fire will continue burning underground for more than 250 years.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah. So I guess that really can happen.
Yeah, we're at the final credits now, and in a nod to Silent Hill 3, the game's theme song, performed by Mary Elizabeth McGlynn, is actually used right here in the film's end credits. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it is cool. There are a lot of nods like that in this movie, and also in the sequel too. There's
Obviously made by someone who really loved the games. It's really truly loved the games, and I think that comes through, and I think that's probably why we can call this the best, maybe the best video game adaptation to date. I don't know. I guess on some level I like this movie, but it's got too many problems. I don't know.
it does have a lot of problems, but I think that as a horror movie, it serves its purpose. It is a scary horror movie, and it's creepy. It's got a great atmosphere. It's a beautiful movie, and I think it does justice to the game. The point of the game is to freak you out, and the movie does a pretty good job of freaking you out at times.
I agree.
So I think it's a good movie, and I like it.
Okay. Now that we've reached the end of the movie, we'd like to read a 5-star review that we received on iTunes, but we actually don't have any to read this week. Leaving us a review on iTunes helps us because when you leave a rating and review, it actually puts us on the charts where we can be seen and we are visible. And the more we're seen and the more we're visible, the more listeners we'll get, and therefore we'll get more reviews. It's kind of a cycle, like how that works. So please go do that.
So if you'd like to leave us a rating and review on iTunes, we would really appreciate it. And if it's a 5-star, then next time we'll read it on the show.
As always, you can find us on our website at popcornpoops.com. Please follow us on Twitter and like us on Facebook if you'd like to receive updates about the show, including our weekly movie still identification game. If you have a question, comment, or movie request for us, you can reach us on our social media outlets or by emailing us at thepopcornpoops@gmail.com.
Next week, we'll be continuing our video game adaptation month with Paul W.S. Anderson's 1995 film, Mortal Kombat. If you have any questions about that movie or related topics you'd like us to discuss, please contact us through social media or email.
Thanks for listening, and until next time, take care.
Bye-bye.
We are the Popcorn Poops.
Hi, I'm Mike White,
And I'm Rob St. Mary.
and we're the hosts of the Projection Booth podcast.
If you haven't heard of the Projection Booth, that's okay.
But we think it's time that you have,
We've been doing this for over 3 years now.
and we think we're doing a pretty good show.
Every week we look at a different film and put it in context.
We try to bring you interviews with the people behind the films.
Or experts on a subject matter covered in the film.
We don't specialize in any one particular genre or type of film.
We try to examine every aspect of cinema.
From every corner of the globe.
Even at 3 years, we barely just scratched the surface.
But we're ready. We're ready for you to listen to us.
That's right. Now's the time to give us a shot.
Download us through our free smartphone app
Or through Stitcher, iTunes, Geek Juice Radio, Jackalow,
or our website.
projection-booth.com.
We'll keep making great shows.
Now it's your turn to listen to them.